Hello, and thank you for watching Friday Focus, where we do not focus on what is seen, but on what is unseen. And I know that the Friday Focus that I sent out today earlier for video did not have any sound, so I am redoing it, and that's why you're getting this now. Today, Friday Focus is looking at Psalm 44, Past, Present, Future. There are a couple of interesting verses in Revelation 4. They reveal unusually strange created beings calling out continuously in God's throne room. In the center and around the throne were four living beings, each covered with eyes, front and back. The first of these living beings was like a lion. The second was like an ox. The third had a human face, and the fourth was like an eagle in flight. Each of these living beings had 6 wings, and their wings were covered all over with eyes, inside and out. Day after day and night after night, they kept on saying, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God, the Almighty, the one who always was, who is, and who is still to come." Revelation chapter 4, verses 6 through 8. Now, let me ask you a question. Did you see it? Did you notice the words, who always was, he's the God of the past, who is, he's the God of the present, who is still to come, he's the God of the future. There will never be a moment, day, month, year, or lifetime when he will not be God. He will always be God. Equally true, there will never be a life situation that will rob him of that position. No matter what happens, he will always be God. Just as the sons of Korah realized it, so too it should cause us to cling to him. The sons of Korah authored 11 psalms. There's Psalm 42, Psalms 44 through 49, Psalms 84 through 85, and Psalms 87 and 88. The sons of Korah were descendants of an Israelite who had rebelled against Moses, but centuries later enjoyed the responsibility of providing music for sanctuary worship during David's reign. Psalm 44 was composed for the temple choir, extolling this God of the past, of the present, and of the future. So let's take a look for a moment at God of the past, Psalm 44, verses 1 through 8. This temple anthem has a rousing start, a replay of God's power and magnificence in days gone by. It opens with a reminder of God's past goodness to Israel. It says in verse 1, "O God, we have heard it with our own ears. Our ancestors have told us of all you did in their day, in days long ago." And the next 7 verses describe it. In their nations past, God had driven enemies out of their lands. He strengthened their people and their position in the land. Verse 2 says, "You drove out the pagan nations by your power. You crushed their enemies." The sons of Korah gave praise and glory to this God of the past. Israel's success was due to God, not their own might. Verse 8 says, "O God, we give you glory. We give glory to you all day long and constantly praise your name." He's also the God of the present. Psalm 44, verses 9 through 26. When this psalm was given to the choir to sing, it was a different story. Israel was in a very different circumstance. Their song reveals a time of hardship, a time of loss. Victories had been relegated to stories of the past. Had God ceased to be their God? According to those verses in Revelation, God is always God. So what had changed? Israel shows, and history shows, that it was Israel's relationship with God that had changed. We sense the author's feeling of helplessness as he respectfully complains to God, asking why this was allowed to happen. In verse 9 we see it. It says, "But now you have tossed us aside in dishonor. You no longer lead our enemies to battle." Israel had become a people of derision, an object of scorn, and the psalmist was puzzled. Why had God permitted such disgrace? Note verse 13. "You let our neighbors mock us. We're an object of scorn and derision to those around us." While the psalmist doesn't appear to be aware of his sins committed by the people, it's obvious that he is confused as to why these things are happening, verses 20 and 21. And then in verse 24, he wants to know why God is looking the other way, why he's ignoring them in their suffering. If you're in a position where you wonder where God is, allow me to assure you, he is still with you and he's still God. It's a great time for self-reflection, to see if anything at all has come between you and him. Now let's look at the God of the future. Verse 26 of Psalm 44. As the author comes to the end of the psalm, he does so from a position of faith, calling on the God of their past to reveal himself on behalf of his people as the God of their future. He says, "Rise up, help us, ransom us because of your unfailing love." So he recognized that God's love was still there. It never fails. Like all who find themselves in similar circumstances, God's people were depressed, and they needed to look forward by faith to his abundant care. So, when it comes to Psalm 44, let me try to bring it all home. First, life will always produce moments when we don't understand why God permits certain things to happen. Second, difficulties may occur when we're faithfully following God, yet he doesn't answer our prayers right away. Third, there will be occasions when the plans we assumed were God-honoring don't work out and we can't figure out why. Fourth, we may become frustrated. That's okay. Give your frustration to God. Fifth, but through it all, remember that God is God and you and I are not. Sixth, God doesn't do anything without a reason. There are no random out-of-control happenings. His purposes may be hidden from us, but we can be assured that every event has a reason behind it. And seventh, there was a reason for the blindness of the man in John 9, for the mistreatment of Joseph in Genesis 50, verse 20, and a reason for the crucifixion, John 3:16 and 17. There's a reason for everything God does. By the way, we're not called to trust whether or not our plans work out, whether or not our prayers get answered, whether or not life is easy or difficult. We're just simply called to trust. God's not playing hide and seek. He's busy making you into the image of his Son. So if I have any advice at all, it's let God explain it all to you in heaven. Until then, remain faithful. This is Dr. Vic Hollyfriend in his grace. If you have any comments or questions, you can address them to me at vicsfridayfocus@gmail.com. That's vicsfridayfocus@gmail.com. God bless you and have a tremendous week. Remain faithful.